Well, my new tree is delivered, and today I'm going to plant it. One thing to remember about potted plants is that you can plant them any time of the year, but I prefer not to plant them if the ground is frosty or if it's very, very dry and very, very hot, because there's a lot more work involved in keeping them alive. So let's go about planting the tree. As you can see, it is quite a large pot. It's a 10-litre pot, and first thing I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to take this off. It's protected from its transport, and I've got myself an area twice that size I'm going to need to open up in the grass in order to be able to plant it. And I've got myself the cover to the old fire pit, which I'm going to use as a guide to plant the tree. So this new tree that I have got is an Alamanchier. It has lovely 5-petaled white flowers during the spring, and it's very often called the service berry, as during the early summer you get some lovely berries on the tree, and the leaves change through lovely shades of golds and reds, and should be a lovely feature for the garden. What you'll see is we've now dug the hole. The hole, whilst being round at the top, is square on the insides, and that's going to allow me to open up the roots to allow them to grow rather than round and round in circles like they are in the pot, but actually out into the ground. I've also put the pot just below the level of the surface of the ground in order to create a little dip to make sure that there is moisture retained into that hole. So now we're just going to have a little look at the root system on the plant. If we take this out, just tap the pot off, see there's a really, really lovely set of roots on here. We're just going to tease a few of these out, just to open it up a little bit. Let that bottom open out. Lovely, lovely, lovely. This has been soaked now for a good 10 to 12 hours, and you can see the ground is lovely and moist on here. We'll just ease those roots out a little bit, and we'll pop that in there. One thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some compost to make sure that the plant has a good healthy start. So there we are, the tree is now planted. I've given it a nice dressing of peat-free compost, and you'll notice that just in the centre I've left the area lower than the outside of the circle. This allows any moisture to gather in the middle and to feed the plant, to save the rain running away. I'm so looking forward to seeing the growth of this tree over the next 3 or 4 years. As we all know, gardening can be quite expensive, especially if we go shopping at the garden centres for our flowers. However, I've got a few plants here that I picked up from the bargain stand at the local garden centre. After a few weeks, we've got a nice cyclamen here with a variegated leaf, lovely looking plant. Got another cyclamen here. These came out at just 50p each, and these will be planted out later. Got some dianthus which we brought back. These were just brown and withered and horrible, but with some lovely new growth coming on these. Some winter pansies, violas. They looked absolutely awful, but with a little bit of care we're bringing those back as well. And here we have got some asters. Aster magenta, which is a beautiful dark pink flower, and the leaves are coming on here now, and that's going to be growing on in our summer border this year. So it doesn't have to be very, very expensive when you buy your plants. These altogether cost around about £3. If I go back to April 2017 when we first came into this house, this was less long meadow and more long field of dandelions. In fact, I would say that for every blade of grass we had 2 dandelions, and the grass has taken a lot of work. One of the first things I did when I moved in here was to put up a rotary clothesline about where the fork is standing now. When we started to build the garden and to put in the flower beds, we realised that this was a very, very out of place position to have a utility area, and we couldn't enjoy the garden very much with it. So what we had to do was find a new home for the clothesline and our general utility area, which is what we're going to look at now. Well, here we are with what is probably the ugliest bit of the garden. What we need to do is we need to get this sorted and tidied. And so we've got a storage area, we've got bins, we've got our composter, we've got the washing line, and we've just got a generally messy area of the garden. So this needs to be tidied up. The area where the compost bin is, I'm going to be levelling the ground. Along the fences we're going to be putting some hanging baskets, and then we're going to have some pots which are going to decorate the area for the summer. And hopefully this will then become a safer area, because when my wife is putting the washing out, the ground is so very, very uneven. It's just not a very comfortable area for her. So that is something that is going to be a major project during the course of the late spring and this summer. Another reason for doing it is this gate you see on the left hand side there. That's the entrance to the garden if we have visitors come and join us in the garden, and I want their first impressions of the back garden to be memorable and favourable, not one of a mess. Well, before putting the rejuvenated plants into the border, I wanted to wait until certain plants were visible. So you can just see the snowdrops have arrived, and the tulips are also coming through the ground. So now I can see where I can put these plants without disturbing my bulbs. But then, as you can see, I've put the cyclamen just towards the front of the border, and the 2 dianthus just towards the back, and hopefully they will give us some beautiful colour over the coming years. Well, I've had to come back inside now because the rain is really chucking it down. Just want to do a little bit of a recap of what we've done today and where we are going. So we have had a wonderful delivery of a tree which we planted in the garden. We've actually gone through how to create ourselves some decent cut price plants by buying ones that are almost dead and bringing them back to life. And as you can see, things are growing quite well here in the greenhouse as well. We've also been into an area which is going to be a big project for this year, which is going to be that utility area, and there's going to be a lot of work going on there over the next 4 or 5 months to bring it really up to spec. And then we planted the cyclamens and dianthus that we saved from disappearing. So that's today. So I'm just going to pop upstairs now, review my plans, and maybe have a glass of wine. Well, the weather has turned vicious outside. It is blowing a gale and it is pouring down with rain, and it's not the time to be outside. So I'm just finishing marking off a few of the things I've actually done from my list. Still quite a few to go, but then again, we're looking at a 12-month program here. So I'd like to thank you for being with me today, but I've got a favour to ask. Do you live local to me in Tunbridge? Are you any good with a camera? I'm finding it rather difficult to film myself, edit myself, do the sound myself. I'd appreciate a bit of help. So if you're interested, pop us an email at ayeargardening@gmail.com and see if we could work together. Now, that's the end of today's little broadcast. It's taken about 6 days to put this together, so I think I really deserve a little break at the end of it. I have prepared here a rather small glass of Merlot this time. I'd like to say cheers. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.